Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Vivek Ramaswamy, and I want to talk about Mitt Romney, and I want to talk about Oprah Winfrey in 2020, right? So Vivek Ramaswamy is, I believe he is in a unique point in time. I think all the old rules of running for president are gone, and I don't think candidates realize this, and I do even think that Vivek Ramaswamy, very innovative person, very intelligent person, but I don't think he understands how much things have changed. And I think what really has changed is that what we have to realize is American politics is 90% Hollywood and 10% everything else. This is the part I think, and I cannot explain to you how important 2023 is. We came out of the Great Pandemic, and the whole world is like, what are we going to do now? Like, we need to change some things. And 2023 has been this year of massive self-reflection in the middle of global omni-crisis, right? And so I think he doesn't, he has to Vivek has to quickly understand that 90% of American politics is just Hollywood. And let me prove this to you. It just came out, and it was reported on Breaking Points by Sagar and Jetty, that in 2020, Oprah Winfrey went to Mitt Romney, right, and said, hey, you and I should run on a ticket. And the reason why is the world is in massive danger because of President Donald Trump, and we should get this done. We should win this election, right? And it didn't coalesce. It didn't come together, right? But there was this alternate future where our president would have been Mitt Romney, and our vice president would have been Oprah Winfrey. Hollywood in the White House, right? Which has already happened, right? Like, twice, right? Like, Hollywood in the White House first happened with the Gipper, the Reagan, and then it happened with President Donald Trump. He was a reality star. Came straight from television, Hollywood, right? We've had two Hollywood presidents, right? And I think that going forward, it's just going to be all Hollywood presidents, especially after President Joseph Biden told the whole entire nation, do not ever get another politician to lead this nation. Because President Joseph Biden, it's shocking. Like, it's so shocking, right? Like, he never intended evil the way, I don't think President Biden ever intended evil, right? I think President Donald Trump intended evil many times, right? Like Tuesday and Thursday. Like, he definitely intended evil, right? But the reality is, it didn't matter what anybody intended. President Joseph Biden has been a far worse president than President Donald Trump. It's not even debatable, right? It's so shockingly clear that President Trump was able to allow people to buy eggs, cars, and houses, and was able to get us in a situation where we weren't in two concurrent wars at the same time, and where people weren't openly discussing if we were on one centimeter away from World War III. Right? President Joseph Biden has turned out to be an absolutely catastrophic president, and only the deepest of fools would ever consider voting for him again, in my humble opinion. Right? And actually, that's kind to say. Like, I actually think the real motivation for anyone to vote for President Biden is to turn the Ward Cleaver wall into a Ward Cleaver bulwark, right? To make it just unassailable, so that there would never be another person of color in office. I think that is why people are going to vote for President Biden. They're like, I want to make sure that there's never ever anything but a Ward Cleaver again. Right? I think that's if you're voting for President Biden, that's your real reason. I'm telling you, right? So it's there. I'm very convinced of this, right? So very, very interesting. So basically, there was this alternate history, where we would have been led by Mitt Romney and by Oprah Winfrey. And why did it not coalesce? Why did it just disappear, right? Really fascinating. Absolutely fascinating why it did not coalesce. I think it did not coalesce because Mitt Romney had a sense of his truest problem, okay? And actually, I'm going to say my opinion. It's simply my opinion. And I want you guys, and I want you guys to opinion check me here and see if you think I'm right. Okay, so here's why I think Mitt Romney did not take this, right? I think he didn't understand that American politics is Hollywood. It's it's an equal sign, right? American politics is Hollywood. They have mastered political speech and political action. And what we now know is the vast majority of political speech and political action doesn't come out of Washington, D.C., it comes out of Hollywood, right? So, really, really fascinating, right? So the reality is, but I think the truest reason is, I think Mitt Romney knew the truth. He knew the reason was he was never able to punch through and work at the national level is because unfairly, I do think unfairly, I think Mitt Romney considered himself LDS, right? And identified as LDS, right? But Americans don't know what LDS is. They don't care, right? Like, they're like, oh, you guys are Mormons, right? Like, and it's unfair, and and people should be more. They should. I believe when you set a name to yourself, people should respect that and say, okay, I understand your new identity. But Americans aren't like that. Americans is not the way it works, right? And so I think what actually happened was we landed in this space where people were like, oh, you're a Mormon. When they thought about Mitt Romney, they were like, you're a Mormon, and we still understand Mormons as this group who married multiple people, right? Because that's their history. And again, I think LDS absolutely says, no, that's not our history, right? And I don't think it's important whether it's their history or not. What I think was a obstacle that could not be climbed over by Mitt Romney is the perception. I think people were like, oh, Mitt Romney, you're a Mormon, and we think Mormons are people who married multiple people, like had like plural marriages. And it didn't matter if it was true or not, right? Like, that was the perception. And if you're like, oh, Scott, I don't think that people would care that much. Well, first of all, we just got where, men can marry men, women can marry women. That's like less than a decade old, right? Like, and this was a very big deal in America then, right? It's not, actually, I don't know, I'm not sure why we don't legally have plural marriage now, because it would seem the literal, like, love is love, the literal road that was paved for, men to marry men and women to marry women, you could use every single argument that was used to establish that to say, hey, if I love 6 people, what's the difference, right? Love is love, right? So I think that's where we landed, right? It wasn't about reality. It was simply about perception. And it didn't matter what Mitt Romney claimed. It mattered how the people saw him. And I think he realized, I'm not going to get over the hurdle. And I think he might have been correct in that. I know, like, we still talk about John F. Kennedy being the first Catholic president. It took like 200 years for people to choose anything but a male ward Protestant. Like, that is all, like, I don't even talk, like, and when I say Ward Cleaver was a Protestant, right? Like, it's all part of it. They're like, hey, you got to be Protestant, you got to be ward, you got to be male, right? And Americans would not allow anything else, right? And so they're like, oh, yeah, Mitt, we recognize your ward, we recognize your male, but you're not a Protestant, right? And they held him out for that. And I think he was hesitant to go and take the loss because I think he was like, well, I can do other things and I can be a powerful senator for my state and, and all these other things that he could do. So it is, and actually, I have so much to say on the Oprah Winfrey side, and I just don't have the bandwidth within this video. Truly, truly astounding. And I think what really needs to be done is Vivek Ramaswamy needs to, one, shift over and immediately switch 90% of his political speech and political action to be Hollywood specific. All that matters right now is American entertainment and the 2 wars we're in. That's all of American politics. Oh, and guess what? The the fact that the 2 wars we're in, that's totally Hollywood too. Like, they're completely involved, right? Like, they're constantly commenting on it. They're massively choosing sides, So it's just Hollywood. It's American politics is Hollywood. Period. Equal sign, done, and finished, right? And I think Vivek needs to talk about Hollywood constantly, right? Because it's all It's the entire component of our politics, our political speech, and our political action today. And then the other thing is he needs to communicate. America, look, you could have had Mitt Romney and you could have had Oprah Winfrey as your president and your vice president. Instead, you got Joseph Biden. He destroyed your economy, destroyed any possibility of the American dream, and put you on the verge of World War III, right? Like, so that every day you literally live under the same nuclear threat that America was in the 1950s because you have a commander in cowardice, right? Astounding, absolutely astounding, right? Like, and then he says, hey, don't let Vivek, and then Vivek should say, don't let Vivek Ramaswamy be your alternate history. Let him be your now, right? Elect me and let me fix this nation. That's what Vivek Ramaswamy should do. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear yours. Please get in the comments, send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.